Baylor just signed their lowest rated recruiting class in 20 years. But are there building blocks here to bring the program back?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one podcast network in the world. Sports podcast network anyway, but that's all you care about. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and the Rogue Media Network. I appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day. We are reacting to National Signing Day. A bit of the good, the bad, and the funny here. Baylor just had a historically low-rated recruiting class that they're bringing to campus. You got to go all the way back to the Guy Morris days. How did we get here? Plus, are there some players that they got today that could actually be the building blocks to bringing this program back where it needs to be? It certainly feels that way. And Dave Aranda, with maybe his most bizarre press conference yet, and that's saying a lot, but I kind of love it. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. We start where we start. It is one of the biggest days on the college football calendar nowadays. Early December, it is National Signing Day, class of 2026. And this was supposed to be the class. This was the class that kept Dave Aranda in the seat on the Baylor sideline, among other things, among, an AD not being in the seat where he was supposed to be. But one of the reasons, as you know by now, that Linda Livingstone outlined was a nationally ranked recruiting class. And it is nationally ranked. It's just the lowest rated nationally ranked Baylor recruiting class since 2004. Think about that, folks. We're talking about the first year of Guy Morris back in 2003. Coming right off of Kevin Steele. That's how long it's been since Baylor has had a recruiting class rated this low, at least by 247 Sports. 79th. It drops about 50 spots in 4 days. Y'all, there is no way to sugarcoat this. This has been a catastrophic week for Baylor football. Just off the charts bad. Okay? You go and you have your number one recruit, Jamarion Carlton, flipped to Texas. Your top 40 guy flipped to Texas an hour after you become ineligible for a bowl game. Actually, less than that, less than an hour afterwards. Then the next day, it's Jamarion Vincent, the local kid, 4-star from Conley, going to Michigan instead. And then even last night, the 11th hour, the Austin Novosad hour, we call it now, Jordan Clay, the number 3 recruit in the class for Baylor. This high-flying wide receiver from San Antonio Madison, he flips to Washington. Not even UT or Michigan, these college football playoff hopefuls every year, but Washington. And then it gets worse. Cole Seaton, another 4-star, your top-ranked offensive lineman in the class, what has now become the most important position for Baylor football in recruiting in the transfer portal, he flips in conference to Oklahoma State. You lost your top recruit at your most coveted position to a team that hasn't won a game in your conference in 2 years and just hired a coach last week. He comes in, he puts together a class that's a rival of Baylor's in a week. Again, there is no way to slice this. There's nothing you can tell me in the comments that's going to make me be positive about that. That is not good. You even had David Smoke reporting that Linda Livingstone was on the phone with recruits. The president of the university is on the phone begging recruits, please stay. Please. This is just going to make me look worse. Please stay. And still nothing. It plummeted 50 spots, man. Again, can we try and put this in perspective here? This is the lowest rated class since 2004. There are still several dark years you have to get through to get all the way back to 2004. Yeah, their classes of 2007, 2008, the end of the Guy Morris era. those were better, more highly rated than this one. You have a year where you lost all your recruits due to a scandal, and you still pieced some guys together to have a better, more highly rated class than this one. You had one where a coach basically put together an entire class in February and March in Matt Rule's first year, and that was more highly rated than this one. This is like really, really bad, man. And I hope, because I want to talk about in the next segment, the guys who actually did commit and are coming here, because I don't want this to reflect poorly on them, because these guys could actually be taking this program back, at least the beginning of it. And I think it's really impressive that they have stayed loyal to this program, because I look at the kids who decommitted and flipped, and, you know, talking with Baylor people, it's all the same thing. It's like, man, can you be mad at them? First off, they're high school kids. But second off, like, look at the direction this program's going. You don't need me to tell you. I've told you a bunch over the last couple of weeks and months. It's not a sexy place to be right now. And this, man, 79th ranked recruiting class. Just ahead of Western Kentucky and UTEP. So not last in the state of Texas, but just behind South Alabama, Northern Illinois, and some guy named Troy. Just behind some blue bloods, powerhouses of college football. These are names you're going to see in the college football playoff in the selection show next week. South Alabama, Northern Illinois, and Troy. That can't be where Baylor is living. It can't be. And much as I hate to reference Twitter, but I saw a tweet from, and much as I hate to reference a TCU burner account, but I see a tweet from a TCU burner account that says, man, this is almost sad to watch. I have seen recruiting classes plummet because a coach gets fired or a coach leaves, but it's pretty rare to see one plummet so far when a coach stays. And almost exclusively because a coach stayed. These kids were going to get good money to come and play here. You know, was it UT or Michigan money? Probably not. But they were going to get pretty good money to come and play here, play college football at Baylor. And this thing tanked because you kept the coach, not because you got rid of one. If it hasn't been eye-opening to you already, how can it not be eye-opening right now? We are going to take away some of the positives that came from this day, you know, later on in the show. But with all due respect to the players who are coming on, and I'm excited for, the top of this class dropping out in the 10th and 11th hour is nothing short of a complete disaster and failure for this program. And again, it starts at the top. I'm even going over Dave Aranda. It starts with Mack Rhoades. Mack Rhoades screwed this entire pooch here. Like, seriously, screwed the whole thing up. And it's a trickle-down effect from there, and maybe a little bit of a trickle up, because the president had to make these decisions that were not easy. But contrary to what you might have heard, she could have still fired the coach and got an AD in here. Absolutely could have still done that. It's not quite Penn State dramatic, but it's not that far off to drop from a top 30. It would have been your first top 30 class since 2018, by the way, the Matt Rule days. And you had that. It was in your hands. You know, Baylor's had as many top 40 classes under Dave Aranda as they have had classes 50 or lower. And you had that. You had the top 30 class right there. And it just slips through your fingers, and you really don't have anyone to blame but yourselves. And Dave Aranda said it in his presser today. He said, basically what it comes down to, again, is we got to win. You're not going to lock in recruits if you can't win. And I think this is evidence of that, because I don't think Baylor is as poor as people think. I think they do have good recruiters out there. And unfortunately, that's not going to be highlighted by this. by this class. It's kind of interesting to think that this is their worst class in 20 years, essentially, but you have good recruiters here. You know, the Keenan Halls, the Dallas Bakers, the Aaron Hunts, and whomever else is going out on that trail. They do a good job. But the finished product is what the finished product is. And that is the 79th ranked recruiting class in the country behind South Alabama, Northern Illinois, and Troy. It's not a good place to be. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. Help us out. Because when we come back, we're going to take a positive look at this thing, okay? Because while it was a failure overall, there are still things to be excited about with this class. We're going to find them, and we're going to tell you next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by our friends over at Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. You've heard me talk about this for so long now. I suck at giving gifts. If you want something meaningful, personal, guaranteed to get that reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories. If I could give my mom a third Aura frame, I would. It's not your average picture frame. You preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So they plug it in and the memories are already there. I live almost 2,000 miles away from my mom. She loves that thing. It's a way for us to keep in touch even when we're not talking. It's so great. Your parents, grandparents, newlyweds, just anyone who loves having photos around the house, like that is perfect. Aura Frames keeps the memories going. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com and get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, and they know what they're talking about. All you got to do is use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout, all caps. That's AURA, Aura Frames, all one word, .com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames sell out fast. So order yours now and get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us, Locked On Baylor, at checkout. Terms and conditions do apply. It's tough to sit here and say that there are a lot of positives coming out from a 79th ranked recruiting class, the lowest rated that you've had according to 247 in over 20 years. Think about that. There are kids about to graduate from Baylor University whom this is the lowest ranked recruiting class in their life. That is crazy to think about with the ups and downs of this program, the dark days, the scandals, the coaching changes. It's crazy to think, but here we are. Crazier still, there are things to get excited about in this class. Because what's crazy, when you look through the recruiting rankings nationally, you know, we talk about South Alabama, Northern Illinois, and Troy, the teams ahead of Baylor. They don't have any 4-stars. Baylor still has 4 4-stars in this class. And it really goes to show how special this class could have been, because you had other 4-stars and an arguable 5-star who were ready to commit. And you had the second, or had committed, ready to sign. You had the second best recruiting class in the Big 12 at one point, and now you're sitting in the bottom. But you still have 4 4-stars. There are still some good players who have stayed loyal and true to this Baylor regime. And chief among them is Quinn Murphy, the quarterback. You know, I know we need to talk more about the line. And that's what Dave Aranda is focusing on in this window here. But there is nothing more valuable to a recruiting class than a blue chip quarterback. And that's what Quinn Murphy is. I saw one of the Baylor accounts tweeting out. I thought it was a great line, and I wish I had saved it so that I could give them credit. But, you know, sticking with Baylor hurt Quinn Murphy's rating. Like, this was a mid to high 4-star quarterback who's sitting there as a high 3-star. It hurt his rating, but it helps us immensely. This is a kid who's thrown 83 touchdowns over the last 2 years at Argyle Liberty Christian, playing for Jason Witten, by the way, and has the 3rd most touchdown passes in Texas high school football history. He's sticking with you. He's still coming to Baylor. That's a huge win. Or how about London Smith, the Baylor legacy who had offers from just about everywhere in the country? Like, it was between kind of Baylor and Alabama and Texas. You still won that battle. Local kid, university high. You lost Jamarion Vincent, another local guy, and that stinks. Jamarion Carlton, semi-local. That sucks, man. But this is still a big win on the home front. This is one of the most electric receivers in the state of Texas, man. 42 career touchdowns, 211 career receptions. And I don't want to say single-handedly, but was a huge part in that university high program turning around. Those of you local to Waco or paying attention to high school football while you're at Baylor, you know, man, university is nothing to write home about when it comes to a high school football program. For the last couple of years, they've been a playoff team because of London Smith, and thanks in large part to London Smith and fellow Baylor commit Devontae Kirkland. You know, there's all kinds of good that is there. And you lost Cole Seaton, sure, but you still held on to Jalen Battle, the defensive lineman from Oklahoma. You know, this kid's a stud, 4-star guy, and you're looking for a game wrecker. You thought you had it for Jamarion Carlton. Now you turn your attention to whether Jalen Battle has it. And by the way, that's another guy who had a lot of pressing interest at the end of this cycle. People saying, look at all the guys flipping from Baylor. Are you sure? Are you sure? There was a ton of that with Jalen Battle. Trust me, good sources on that. Rylan Morris, a guy who flipped in the summer and then flipped back. Snip, snap, snip, snap. Was going to go to Stanford. Remember saying, you know, hey, you're gonna get a heck of an education. You're just not going to win many football games. Now he's back at Baylor at a position that they really need some help in. I know a lot of us don't want to hear much about the skill positions, but running back is really where they're going to need some help, especially with two guys coming off of injury-filled years, Dawson Pendergrass and Bryson Washington. Downside of this is Dave Aranda did say this week that they need to build from the inside out, talking about both lines and in the trenches. Well, you got 12 letters of intent at the time of recording of this, and you got one offensive lineman. One. Good news, bad news. Bad news is you only got one. Good news is he's your fourth 4-star. Got a playmaker in Davion Peters, local guy, Lake Belton. You know, Jamarion Richardson, the third Jamarion, if you will, still sticking around. Jamarion Phillips, the fourth Jamarion, still sticking around. And I think it's really impressive, man. I think these young athletes deserve our respect because they are sticking with it in uncertain times, man. Like, you don't need me to tell you. I've done it a lot. There's a very uncertain future with this Baylor football program, and they've got a coach who could be fired within the first month of next season, if not before then, when an AD comes in. But these guys not only believe in him, but they believe in Baylor, because there's a good chance that they could play half their freshman season with a different coach. But they did want to come here. They do want to make a difference. And so, man, there's a ton of respect for that. And that's why I hate, referring to it as the worst class that they've had in 21 years, even though that's statistically correct. It's the lowest rated class they've had in 21 years because there's talent here. What I'm about to say sounds like such a loser thing, and it's so crazy, but damn it, I'm going to say it anyway. How many 79th ranked recruiting classes have 4 stars still in it? That, if nothing else, that shows you exactly what this class could have been. Think about it. 4 stars, and none of them were in your top 3, maybe even your top 4. You could have argued for Cole Seaton with the importance of his position, but he was a high 3-star. So none of them were in your top 3, and you still got 4 stars. That's impressive, including one at quarterback. Okay, high 3-star. Including a very big-time recruit at quarterback. That's a huge deal for Baylor. So, yeah, there are some positives to take. Overall, is it a failure to be the 79th ranked recruiting class in the country for the 15th time in this podcast? Yes, it is. But there's some talent here, and there could be some building blocks. These are the players that you should be excited about. Who are you excited about? Let me know in the comments section below if you're watching on YouTube, or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor if you're listening wherever you get your podcasts as well. And do me a favor, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. Helps me keep my job and helps us on the path towards 5,000 subscribers. About 60% of you watching, listening, aren't actually subscribed to the podcast on YouTube. That helps us, and it also helps you get the #1 Baylor football show straight to your YouTube account every day that we're dropping an episode in the mornings on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts as well. We're not done yet, because we got to talk about this Dave Aranda press conference. He did something he has never done before, and it's something that teams around the country and fans around the country are laughing at. But I kind of love it. Let's tell you what it is next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You know them, you love them, you love money, they help you do that. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, suddenly everything is different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it, you're in it in real time. With FanDuel, you're going to place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. How about the guy who bet on a turnover on downs for the Giants in the first drive of the second half on Monday night, and they got that ridiculous field goal where the guy's kicking his foot into the ground and it goes down as a sack? He won a ton of money because of that. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, and you know how much that happens in football, right? Quarterback's getting hot. Defense tightens up. You're feeling that there's going to be a pick coming. That's the way to do it. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Back here on Locked On Baylor, National Signing Day reaction. The Bears got players to sign. They got 4 stars to sign. And if you want a positive spin on that, that's how you'll tell your friends. They got 4 stars, which is more than, honestly, a lot of schools that are ranked ahead of them. But the downside is, 79th ranked recruiting class. And this came with a bit of a different flair from Baylor Athletics. You'll remember 2 years ago, Dave Aranda didn't even do a National Signing Day press conference. And the media were apoplectic. My man, Bryce Cherry, big fan of Bryce Cherry, man. And he's sitting there tweeting, how the heck do you not do one? How do you not do? It's customary. Every coach in America does it. And you know what? He's exactly right. Coming off a 3-9 season, they didn't even do a press conference for signing day. How does that get your fans jazzed up? You can't lose if you do a press conference. So they did one last year, and they took it a step further this year. Because not only did Dave answer questions about this class, but this great picture from our friend Roy Ogletree of KWTX Channel 10. It's going to look a little wonky, but there it is. Dave Aranda, crisscross applesauce on the floor, breaking down the film of all of the signees. Now it's like a minute each, so it's like, 1 or 2 plays. But people were laughing at this, right? People were saying, man, we have an unserious coach. Certainly fan bases around the country were poking fun at this. And I had some people text me about it like, oh my God. And I said, you know what? I like this. I'm here for this. Because this goes on Baylor's YouTube. And here is your coach communicating directly with the fans, first off, and give something for the media to go off of when asking him questions, man. Like, no, we can't keep up with all the high school football recruiting. Try as we might, it's a really tough thing to do, and we can't watch everybody on every Friday night, and we don't know exactly what coaches are looking for when they find these players. And so, a couple years later, we're thinking, how the heck did this guy not become anything for Baylor, or where did this guy come from? How did they find him as a diamond in the rough? This is a peek into that. Again, is Dave Aranda going to say, yeah, this play sucked. This rep was terrible. We're going to get him beefed up? Like, no, he's not going to say that. He's going to highlight the good things. But it gives you the best look into what we've ever seen, best look into what Dave Aranda and his staff are looking for and how these guys will contribute and how they fill holes that are on the team right now. And I do like that. And the other thing, too, is, we can't bash Dave constantly for not being available to the media and not talking and not giving us a peek into what's going inside this program like pretty much every other coach does. And then, trash him for doing something like this. This is Dave being open and honest with the media and therefore to the fans. And if nothing else, big time move by Baylor PR, because if nothing else, it makes Dave look good, doesn't it? Like you might laugh at it a little bit, but if you actually watch it and you say, okay, this is Dave taking us through the mind, a mind that we've questioned so much over the last 4 seasons of his 6-year tenure. Here's a peek inside. And it makes Dave look personable, which I think he would tell you is a tough thing to do. Because he's not the most social guy. And when things are going poorly, that reflects poorly. I mean, we all do it, right? When things aren't going well, which we've seen a lot of over the last couple of seasons, you all of a sudden don't like the quirky, quiet guy. You're asking for answers. You're wondering why he says the same thing every week. You're wondering why he beats around the bush. And this wasn't like a tell-all novel or anything, tell-all book, but he's giving you something, and he sounds personable. This is kind of Dave in his element, and that is the thing that feels impossible to convey to the fans and to the media, what it looks like when Dave is in his element. This was a little peek into that. So if you're going to be the quirky coach, at least have it as something like this. He hasn't talked about the Berenstain Bears when they lose. I think he's got, a good gauge for when to talk about that. But I don't know. I don't want to make too much of it, but I was a fan of this. I thought it was cool. I don't know how many other coaches are doing that around the country. So small kudos to Dave. Small kudos, because there's still a lot to figure out here. Including in the transfer portal, which is going to be a big subject on tomorrow's show, barring any breaking news. So thank you guys for making this your first listen today and every day. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about this signing day, about Dave sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor. I think that's what we have to call it now. And that's fine. So let me know what you think in the comments, or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor if you're listening wherever you get your podcasts as well. Again, appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day. We'll have some more reaction and start to take a look at the portal and this AD search, because that's getting hot and heavy. We'll have more for you on that in tomorrow's episode of your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.